What's the most disturbing thing an authority figure ever did to you? The first time I met Dr. Patricia Vance, she was holding my 7-year-old daughter's medical chart and telling me I was an unfit mother. This was 30 minutes after I'd brought Emma to the emergency room with what I thought was strep throat. Emma had been complaining about her throat for 2 days, running a low fever, and refusing to eat much of anything. Standard kid stuff that any parent deals with eventually. But when the triage nurse took Emma's temperature and weight, she made this face and called Dr. Vance over immediately. Dr. Vance spent maybe 3 minutes examining Emma before she set down her clipboard and fixed me with this look that made my stomach drop. Mrs. Chen, your daughter is severely underweight for her age and height. She's showing signs of malnutrition and possible neglect. I'm required by law to report this to Child Protective Services. I stared at her, trying to process what she'd just said. Malnutrition? She's been sick for 2 days. She's not eating because her throat hurts. That's why we're here. Dr. Vance pulled out her phone and started typing. Your daughter weighs 38 pounds at age 7. That puts her in the 2nd percentile for her age group. This level of weight loss doesn't happen overnight from a sore throat. Weight loss? I said. She's always been small. She's built like my sister's family. They're all tiny people. I've seen neglect before, Mrs. Chen. I know what it looks like. Dr. Vance didn't even look up from her phone. The caseworker will be here within the hour to conduct an initial assessment. I felt like the world was tilting sideways. Emma was sitting on the examination table in her little hospital gown, looking confused and scared. She'd been my only focus since her father died in a car accident 8 months earlier, and the idea that anyone could think I was neglecting her was incomprehensible. Can we please just treat her throat infection? I asked. I can bring her back for a weight check in a week if you're concerned. I've already called CPS, Dr. Vance said. It's out of my hands now. What followed was 3 hours of waiting in that sterile emergency room, while Emma's strep test came back positive, and a caseworker named Derek Mills showed up with a clipboard and an NUD attitude. Mills was maybe 25 years old with this vicious way of speaking that made every question sound like an accusation. How many meals per day does Emma typically eat? He asked, pen poised over his forms. 3 meals and snacks. She's just been sick and not eating much. What did she eat yesterday? Some toast in the morning, a few spoonfuls of soup at lunch, and she picked at her dinner. Mills wrote something down and frowned. And the day before? Similar. She's been complaining about her throat hurting when she swallows. I need to see your refrigerator and pantry contents, Mills said. I'm scheduling a home visit for tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Dr. Vance discharged Emma with antibiotics for her strep throat and a referral to a pediatric nutritionist. She handed me a pamphlet about failure to thrive and told me that Emma would need weekly weight checks until further notice. The drive home was silent except for Emma asking why the doctor was angry at me. I didn't have an answer that wouldn't scare her more than she already was. That night, I called my sister Rebecca, who lived across the country in Portland. Rebecca had 2 kids of her own and had always been my sounding board for parenting decisions. They think you're starving, Emma? Rebecca's voice was incredulous. That's insane. She's always been tiny, just like Josh and Sarah were at that age. Do they not have her previous medical records? I gave them our pediatrician's information, but Dr. Vance said she was concerned about Emma's current condition. What exactly did this doctor see that made her think neglect? I tried to remember Dr. Vance's specific words. She said Emma was in the 2nd percentile for weight and showed signs of malnutrition, but Emma's been sick and not eating. Of course she's lost a little weight. Rebecca was quiet for a moment. Lynn, I think you need to get a lawyer. Like, immediately. CPS cases can snowball really fast, especially if there's a doctor pushing the narrative. I spent the rest of the night cleaning my already clean house and organizing our pantry so everything would look perfect for Mills's visit. I pulled out Emma's baby books and medical records, hoping to show that she'd always followed her own growth curve, even if it was on the smaller side. Mills arrived the next morning with a colleague named Sandra Torres, who introduced herself as a child welfare specialist. They spent 2 hours going through every room in our house, photographing the contents of our refrigerator and pantry, and asking Emma questions while I stood there feeling helpless. Emma, do you ever go to bed hungry? Torres asked in that fake, sweet voice adults use when they're trying to get information from children. Sometimes I'm not hungry at dinner, Emma said. Mommy always makes me try a few bites, but if my tummy hurts, she lets me stop. Mills wrote that down like it was evidence of something sinister. They documented everything. The organic snacks in our pantry, Emma's height and weight chart on her bedroom wall, the family photos showing Emma at various ages looking happy and healthy. But Torres kept focusing on Emma's visible ribs when she lifted her arms and the fact that her clothes looked loose. Mrs. Chen, I'm required to inform you that we're opening a formal investigation into Emma's care, Torres said. You'll need to bring her to our office next week for a comprehensive medical evaluation with our contracted physician. Can't we just work with our regular pediatrician? I asked. Dr. Martinez has already reviewed Emma's case file. We need an independent assessment. After they left, I called our pediatrician's office immediately. Dr. Sarah Kim had been Emma's doctor since birth and knew her medical history better than anyone. I heard from CPS this morning. Dr. Kim said when she got on the line. Lynn, I've been trying to reach Dr. Vance to discuss Emma's growth patterns, but she hasn't returned my calls. What did you tell CPS? I sent them Emma's complete growth charts, showing she's consistently tracked the 10th percentile since birth. She's small, but she's been following her own curve normally. I also mentioned her father's family history. His sister and mother are both very petite women. So you don't think there's any problem? Not based on what I know of Emma's medical history. But Lynn, I have to tell you, CPS doctors sometimes see things differently than primary care physicians. They're trained to look for signs of abuse and neglect, and sometimes they see problems where there aren't any. Dr. Kim recommended I contact the patient advocate office at the hospital to file a complaint about Dr. Vance's handling of our case. She also gave me the name of a family attorney who specialized in CPS cases. The attorney, Patricia Wong, agreed to meet with me that afternoon. Her office was in a converted house downtown, with child-friendly waiting areas and toys scattered around. The walls were covered with thank you cards from families she'd helped. Dr. Vance has a reputation in the family law community, Wong told me after I explained what had happened. She's filed more CPS reports than any other ER physician in the county over the past 2 years. Some of them have been substantiated, but many have been dismissed after investigation. Is there something I can do to stop this? Wong pulled out a thick file folder. We can fight it, but the process is lengthy and expensive. CPS investigations typically take 3 to 6 months, and during that time, you'll be under constant scrutiny. There's also the possibility they could remove Emma from your care if they determine she's in immediate danger. The thought of someone taking Emma away made my chest tighten. Remove her? Based on what? If their contracted physician concludes that Emma is being medically neglected neglected, they can petition for emergency custody. It doesn't happen often, but it's a possibility you need to be prepared for. Wong explained that my best strategy was to be completely compliant with all CPS requirements while building a paper trail showing Emma's consistent care. She recommended I start taking Emma to Dr. Kim weekly for weight checks and keep detailed food logs documenting everything Emma ate. Document everything, Wong said. Every phone call, every visit, every interaction with CPS workers. Keep receipts for groceries. Take photos of meals. Get written statements from people who know Emma well. I left Wong's office feeling overwhelmed but determined to fight for my daughter. That evening, I started a journal documenting every detail of Emma's daily routine, from what she ate for breakfast to when she went to bed. The CPS medical evaluation was scheduled for the following Thursday at a clinic across town. I arrived with Emma's complete medical file, growth charts going back to birth, and a statement from Dr. Emma Kim explaining Emma's consistent growth pattern. The CPS physician, Dr. Robert Martinez, was older than Dr. Vance and had a gentler bedside manner. He spent 45 minutes examining Emma, reviewing her medical history, and asking detailed questions about her eating habits and energy levels. Emma appears healthy overall, Dr. Martinez told me after the examination. Her weight is low, but it's consistent with her historical growth pattern. I don't see signs of acute malnutrition or neglect. I felt a wave of relief, but Dr. Martinez wasn't finished. However, given Dr. Vance's concerns and the recent weight loss during her illness, I'm recommending continued monitoring and nutritional counseling. CPS will want to see steady weight gain over the next few months. What happens if she doesn't gain weight? We'll reassess at that time. Children go through growth spurts and plateaus. The important thing is ensuring she's getting adequate nutrition and medical care. Mills called me that evening to schedule follow-up visits and explain the requirements for the ongoing investigation. Emma would need weekly weight checks, monthly home visits, and nutritional counseling sessions. I would also need to complete parenting classes focused on child nutrition and development. This seems excessive for a child who was diagnosed with strep throat, I said. Mrs. Chen, we take allegations of medical neglect very seriously. These requirements are standard protocol for cases involving failure to thrive. But Dr. Martinez said he didn't see signs of neglect. Dr. Martinez's report will be one factor in our overall assessment. We'll also be evaluating your compliance with our recommendations and Emma's progress over time. The next few weeks fell into a rhythm of constant scrutiny. Every Tuesday, I took Emma to Dr. Kim's office for weight checks. Every Friday, Mills or Torres would show up for unannounced home visits. Twice a week, we went to nutritional counseling sessions where a dietitian named Carol Stevens reviewed everything Emma had eaten and made suggestions for increasing her caloric intake. Emma started asking why we had so many doctor appointments and why strangers kept coming to our house. I tried to explain it in age-appropriate terms, but she was clearly picking up on my stress. Mommy, did I do something wrong? She asked one night after Mills had spent an hour going through our kitchen cabinets. No, sweetheart. Some people are just worried about making sure you're healthy and growing strong. But I feel fine. I'm not sick anymore. The weight checks became an exercise in frustration. Emma would gain half a pound one week and lose it the next. Dr. Kim assured me this was normal for children Emma's age, especially during periods of stress, but CPS interpreted any weight loss as evidence that their intervention was necessary. 3 weeks into the investigation, I received a call from Emma's school. The guidance counselor, Mrs. Lythakin Patterson, said that CPS had contacted them requesting information about Emma's behavior and academic performance. They're asking about Emma's attention in class, her social interactions, and whether she's ever mentioned being hungry or tired. Mrs. Patterson said, I told them Emma is one of our best students and shows no signs of distress. Are they interviewing other parents? Other children? I can't share details about ongoing investigations, but I wanted you to know that we're supportive of your family. Emma's teacher has nothing but positive things to say about her. That same week, I learned that Dr. Sleaze Vance had reached out to our previous pediatrician in California, where we'd lived before Emma's father died. She was requesting Emma's complete medical history, including records from her first 2 years of life. She's really digging deep, Wong told me during our weekly check-in. That suggests she's committed to building a case against you. A case for what? Emma's fine. She's gaining weight, she's healthy, she's doing well in school. Dr. Vance filed a report alleging medical neglect. If she can't substantiate that allegation, it reflects poorly on her professional judgment. Some physicians double down rather than admit they made a mistake. Wong had been researching Dr. Hisnation, Vance's background, and discovered she'd been named in several malpractice suits over the past 5 years. None had gone to trial, but the pattern suggested she might be overly aggressive in her approach to suspected abuse cases. There's something else, Wong said. I've been talking to other attorneys who've dealt with her reports. She has a tendency to focus on single mothers, particularly those who are dealing with recent trauma or stress. You think she's targeting me because I'm a widow? I think she sees a vulnerable family situation and assumes the worst. It's not uncommon for CPS workers to view single parents as higher risk, even when there's no evidence of actual problems. A month into the investigation, Emma had her first session with the court-appointed child psychologist, Dr. Lisa Park. These sessions were supposed to assess Emma's emotional well-being and determine if she was experiencing trauma related to alleged neglect. Dr. Park's office was designed to be child-friendly, with toys and art supplies scattered around a comfortable seating area. She spent the first session just getting to know Emma and building rapport. Emma seems like a well-adjusted child, Dr. Park told me after the session. She talks about you lovingly and describes a stable home environment. She did mention that lots of people have been asking her questions lately, and she's confused about why. We're trying to keep the disruption to a minimum, but there are so many appointments and visits. I understand this is stressful for both of you. In my experience, the investigation process itself can be more traumatic for children than whatever prompted the initial report. Dr. Park scheduled 3 more sessions with Emma over the following month. Meanwhile, the home visits continued, along with weekly weight checks and nutritional counseling. Emma was gaining weight slowly but steadily, which Dr. Kim said was perfectly normal. She's gained 3 pounds over 6 weeks, Dr. Kim explained during one of our appointments. That's actually faster growth than I'd expect for a child her size. She's clearly getting adequate nutrition. But Mills wasn't satisfied with the progress. During one home visit, he questioned Emma extensively about her meals and asked her to draw pictures of what she typically ate for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. These portions look small, he said, examining Emma's crayon drawings of toast and scrambled eggs. She's 7 years old, I said. She doesn't need adult-sized portions. We need to see more significant weight gain if this case is going to be closed successfully. Wong recommended I start documenting Emma's food intake with photographs. Every meal, every snack, every drink had to be photographed and logged with time timestamps. It felt invasive and obsessive, but Wong insisted it was necessary protection. If this goes to court, you'll need evidence showing that Emma was receiving adequate nutrition throughout the investigation period, she said. 2 months after the initial ER visit, I received a letter from CPS scheduling a case review meeting with Mills, Torres, Dr. Martinez, and a supervisor named Janet Kumar. The purpose was to evaluate the progress of the investigation and determine next steps. This is either very good news or very bad news, Wong told me. Either they're preparing to close the case, or they're escalating to the next level of intervention. The meeting was held at the CPS offices in a sterile conference room with fluorescent lighting and institutional furniture. Emma wasn't present, but her case file had grown to over 2 inches thick with reports, medical records, and documentation from the previous 2 months. Kumar opened the meeting by reviewing the initial allegations and the investigation findings to date. Dr. Martinez presented Emma's medical evaluations, showing steady weight gain and no signs of malnutrition or abuse. Dr. Martinez's reports indicate that Emma is receiving adequate care and nutrition, Kumar said. However, Dr. Vance has submitted additional concerns about the family's situation. Dr. Vance had apparently filed a supplemental report claiming that my defensive attitude and resistance to medical recommendations were evidence of ongoing neglect. She also cited Emma's initial weight loss during her strep throat infection as proof that I wasn't properly monitoring her health. Mrs. Chen has been fully compliant with all CPS requirements, Wong pointed out. Emma has attended every scheduled appointment, gained weight consistently, and shown no signs of distress or neglect. Mills presented his findings from the home visits and interviews. While he couldn't identify any specific problems with Emma's care, he recommended continued monitoring for another 3 months to ensure sustained progress. Emma has gained 5 pounds over 8 weeks, I said. Her pediatrician says she's perfectly healthy. How much more progress do you need to see? Kumar consulted her notes. Dr. Vance's original report expressed concerns about Emma's overall growth trajectory, not just her immediate weight. We want to ensure she continues growing appropriately. The meeting lasted 2 hours and ended with a decision to continue the investigation for another 3 months, with reduced monitoring requirements. Emma would still need monthly weight checks and home visits, but the weekly appointments could be discontinued. Walking out of that building, I felt simultaneously relieved and frustrated. The case wasn't closed, but the intensity was being reduced. Emma would continue to be subjected to scrutiny, but at least we wouldn't be living under constant surveillance. That evening, Emma asked me when the doctor people would stop coming to our house. Soon, sweetheart. They just want to make sure you're healthy and growing strong. But Dr. Kim already says I'm healthy. Why do we need so many doctors? I didn't have a good answer for that. 3 months later, the case was finally closed. Emma had gained 8 pounds total and was tracking along her historical growth curve perfectly. Dr. Martinez's final report concluded that there was no evidence of medical neglect or inadequate care. Dr. Vance never contacted us directly to acknowledge that her initial assessment had been wrong. According to Wong, this was typical. Physicians rarely admit to filing unfounded CPS reports because it could expose them to liability. The system is designed to err on the side of caution, Wong explained. That means some families will be investigated unnecessarily, but it also means genuinely abused children get identified and protected. I understood the logic, but it didn't make the experience any less traumatic. For 6 months, every aspect of our lives had been scrutinized by strangers who assumed the worst about our family. Emma had been subjected to countless medical examinations and psychological evaluations, all because one doctor couldn't distinguish between a sick child and a neglected one. The investigation officially closed on a Thursday in November. I received a letter from Kumar stating that allegations of medical neglect have not been substantiated and that no further action is required at this time. That weekend, I took Emma out for ice cream to celebrate. She ordered a triple scoop sundae with extra whipped cream, and for the first time in months, I didn't photograph her food or worry about whether she was eating enough. Mommy, why are you crying? Emma asked, looking up from her ice cream. Happy tears, sweetheart. I'm just happy we can enjoy ice cream without anyone asking us questions about it. The experience left lasting effects on both of us. Emma developed anxiety around medical appointments that persisted for over a year. I found myself second-guessing every parenting decision and documenting things that should have been private family moments. A year later, Wong called to tell me that Dr. Vance had been named in a class action lawsuit by families who claimed she had filed false CPS reports. The suit alleged that she had a pattern of making unfounded allegations against single mothers and families dealing with stress or trauma. Are you interested in joining the lawsuit? Wong asked. I thought about it for several days. Part of me wanted Dr. Vance held accountable for what she'd put our family through, but another part of me just wanted to move on and focus on Emma's future rather than relitigating our past trauma. I don't think so, I told Wong. I just want to put this behind us. Emma is 11 now and has grown into a healthy, confident child who still tracks along her own petite growth curve. She remembers very little about the CPS investigation, which is probably for the best. When she does mention that period, she refers to it as when all those people were worried about me for no reason. Dr. Vance still works at the same emergency room. According to local news reports, she was cleared of wrongdoing in the class action lawsuit, though the hospital implemented new protocols requiring consultation with patients' primary care physicians before filing CPS reports. I've thought a lot about what Dr. Vance's motivations might have been. Maybe she genuinely believed she was protecting Emma. Maybe she was following protocols that prioritized child safety over family privacy. Maybe she was dealing with her own stress or biases that affected her judgment. But the impact on our family was real, regardless of her intentions. For 6 months, we lived under a cloud of suspicion that affected every aspect of our daily lives. Emma learned that doctors and social workers could appear at any time to question her about private family matters. I learned that being a good parent wasn't enough protection against accusations of neglect. The most disturbing part wasn't Dr. Vance's initial mistake. Medical professionals are human and make errors in judgment. The most disturbing part was her unwillingness to reconsider her assessment when presented with contradictory evidence from Emma's pediatrician and medical history. A responsible physician would have consulted with Dr. Kim before filing a CPS report. A reasonable person would have acknowledged the possibility of error when multiple other medical professionals disagreed with her assessment. A caring doctor would have considered the impact of her actions on a child who was already dealing with the trauma of losing her father. Instead, Dr. Vance doubled down on her initial judgment and spent months trying to build a case that supported her original conclusion. She treated our family as a problem to be solved rather than people deserving of dignity and respect. A system that was supposed to protect Emma ended up causing her more harm than any neglect she might have experienced. And the authority figure who was supposed to heal ended up inflicting wounds that took years to fully recover from. That's the most disturbing thing an authority figure ever did to me. Convinced an entire bureaucracy that I was an unfit mother based on a single interaction during a medical emergency, then refused to acknowledge her mistake even when all the evidence proved her wrong.